Doug, who is the number one team in the NFL?
Always curious to see if we're in agreement on number one. I like this team more now than I did a year ago. I did not believe in them a year ago, and that means I'm not picking Kansas City number one. I'm putting Tampa number one because they brought everybody back, and I think like Brady in year two with everybody, with getting more familiar with his weapons, and I don't know that they got any better, but I don't think they got any worse. And I think they're running it back, and I think they might run it back. I think they'll have a better. They're 11-5. Last year, I think they might, especially like New Orleans, Drew Brees is gone, stuff like that. I think they'll win more games in the regular season than they did a year ago. So I'm pretty convinced with them as my number one.
Let's do this. Who didn't have Tampa number one? Anyone?
Nobody. Wow.
I did not have Tampa number one.
Mary Kay, who do you have at number two?
I did go with Kansas City at number two. I just think for all the reasons that Ellis mentioned, and for all the reasons that we all know about the Kansas City Chiefs, they are what they are. Patrick is who he is, and they obviously still have, Travis and Tyreek and all of those guys. I actually think they probably should try to run the ball a little bit more, but for the most part, I think they'll just be right exactly where they were.
You know what? I don't want to be boring. I want to change things up just a little bit. So I'm actually going to take a team that might be a little bit of a surprise, but I really like them. I think they're a good football team. The Browns kind of rated them a little bit this offseason, but I actually really like the LA Rams. I think this is a team with Matthew Stafford now and Sean McVay. They went out and they got a guy they wanted at quarterback that Sean McVay wants at quarterback. They still have really good defensive players. They lost John Johnson, obviously. They lost their slot corner in Troy Hill. They've still got really good defensive players. So I'm going to actually I'm actually going to jump a team up my board just to not be boring here, because the team I had at third is just boring. It's probably who everybody else would have had at third in this situation. So I'm going to take the LA Rams here at 3. So we are up to Scott now picking 4th.
And I was really expecting to have a different conversation here with the 4th pick than I'm going to have, but I guess I'll be the one to do the boring pick, as Dan called it, and I'll take the Packers here. Back-to-back 13-win seasons, but two conference title games in a row, I believe, too. They didn't really lose anybody of note. I know Christian Kirksey's gone, but they kept their running back, which is important. And you still got Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are going to be good. They're going to be a top 5 team again, I think, and definitely in my top 5.
At number 5, Doug's going to love this pick. Give me the Indianapolis Colts.
Whoa.
Yep. This is both a belief in Carson Wentz getting back to top 15, 20 production. I'm not going to sit here and say MVP like you hear at some places. I think that's ridiculous. They don't need him to be that. They need him to make plays on third down, be an athlete, and just go where the easy completion is, because this team can win by running the football. I think they have a loaded defense. They brought back a lot of their entire core. T.Y. Hilton coming back, Xavier Rhodes, corner used to be in Minnesota, coming back. Their offensive line remains strong. I think they play a style of defense that the Browns want to play, in the fact that they consistently get pressure with 4.
I have no doubt that the Browns are one of the best 5 teams in the NFL. They didn't lose anything that mattered. They added stuff that was important. They're going to be better because the coach and the quarterback are together in year 2, and the quarterback's never had that before. Their best receiver is going to be back. They might add Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know. I feel like people haven't picked the Browns yet because we're trying to avoid them. I had them 3rd on my list, and I'm taking the Browns at 6.
Okay, so now I want to know where everybody had the Browns. Okay. I had them 4th, actually, and I kind of had them in that mix with Buffalo and Baltimore and the Rams. So I kind of had them in that range. I almost took them 3rd, but I decided to go a different direction. Scott, where'd you have the Browns?
I had the Browns 4th, right behind the Packers. It was like the Browns, Ravens, and Bills. I just had them in a jumble, and I just put the Browns ahead of them I know they haven't beaten the Ravens, and I know they didn't get to play the Bills, but I don't know. We're ranking things, so I put them fourth.
Mary Kay, where'd you have them?
Oh, I had them seventh. I had them seventh. I think that they've got some things to prove this year. I think they have a tougher schedule. I think they've got to go on the road and they've got to play that's on the road, right? Kansas City and and Green Bay. Now they have to play the Cardinals. I think that's going to be a tough out. Joe Burrow is going to be back. That's not going to be easy with him in his second season. I think they've gotten better. They still have to beat the Ravens. I had him seventh.
Yeah, I had him eighth for a lot of the reasons Mary Kay laid out. I know that this is, again, a power ranking, but I think it's worth mentioning that if you pull up Vegas Super Bowl odds, they've got the Browns all the way down at 13th with teams like the Cardinals and the Patriots even ahead of them. I don't agree with that, but I think it is important to keep in mind with that. Again, we haven't ranked the Ravens or the Bills yet. And this is a team that still needs to prove that Odell Beckham Jr. can be the type of receiver that I continue to think he can be in this offense. This is a team that needs to prove it can generate a pass rush and not become a Tennessee Titans light where you have you're paying this money in the secondary and you're actually not getting after the quarterback. Those are the two concerns I still have. And for that reason, they're eighth, because I think, again, we haven't ranked them yet, but we keep talking about them. The Ravens and the Bills have already proved it and have more pieces solidified, and just an overall more explosive offense, whether we're talking receiver, quarterback. Those two offenses I'm much more scared of than what Cleveland has currently.
The futures that I'm looking at has them eighth, not 13th.
Okay.
I'm looking at Action Network. I don't think 13th is a consensus. I'm looking at a consensus thing. I wrote about this. Football Outsiders had a stat of games lost, basically, and it was like the type of player that was lost and how long. Of the 13 teams that had winning records last year, the Browns lost the most games to COVID and injury than anybody else with the winning record. I think that gets overlooked. I don't think we talk about that enough.